Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. So today I'm filming earlier in the morning and I'm a little low dough, but I think I'm going to be okay. But I think we might be able to finish this episode. So let's go.
Starlet in the world, right? Her biggest fear is being fat. Body image is universal.
All right.
Access is not. That's the thing. I think even saying, oh, something, they have many clothing options. So I think just saying like, I'm just laying it on the fashion. I think that they do have far less frustrations, but body image is universal. 100%. I agree with you on that all day long, right? Because again, the biggest starlet in the world, right? Her biggest fear is being fat. Body image is universal. Access is not. So
I think she's
I might disagree
she's probably talking about Taylor.
with you. You know?
I wasn't talking in reference to access. I
Sure.
100% acknowledge that the smaller you are, the more access you have. Period.
Yeah.
Right? I think I was disagreeing in the sense that the harm comes from the mid-size, like mid-size to straight size.
And I'm not attacking midsize anything, right? I do feel that
It's not that you're attacking.
these
It's that you're competing or you're comparing. That comparison is a competition. It's just an indirect competition because it's within Hinge. So everything is kind of passive aggressive, as I've tried to tell you guys. So it's still the same thing as the other ones, but it's instead of it being aggressive, it's passive aggressive. So I don't know how aware they are sometimes of how they come across, which that I don't know if it is the TR or if it's just generalized introvert cringe, which I have commented on all of them, how they're kind of like very introvert cringe, you know, like they say things that just don't make sense socially. Like I remember this one episode where I reacted to it with Lisa, with my friend Lisa. You guys know Lisa King. And Lisa's extroverted and she was just baffled at some of the stuff they were saying. And I was like, this is introvert cringe. Like, I'm letting you know. Like, this is something an introvert would think. And again, I do think that can happen too with them. And I think that that's what this is. Which, remember, within fat acceptance, there's a lot of people that never get out. They don't ever leave the house. You know, they don't have a life. They're terminally introverted, or you know, it's not good. So I always tell my introverts, you got to get out. You got to think of it as like brushing your teeth. You have to like engage with people and be outside, and you have to do it pretty much like very often. Like even for me, like over Christmas I stayed home a couple days and I wasn't filming or anything, so I just wasn't talking very much. And when I left the house again, because I had to work again, I was so awkward. And it was literally only like 3 or 4 days of not doing as much. And I was like, oh my God, I forgot how to talk. So I'm just saying, like, you got to maintain that. You got to think of it. It's kind of like brushing your teeth because you have to still be able to function. And that doesn't mean you have to go to a party and you have to do all this crazy stuff all the time. But you have to make sure you don't end up like them. I'm just going to say it. So, again, I'm saying it.
I do feel that some of these terms that basically anything under fat, right, have come about in a way to almost say like, well, I know that I'm not, you know, societally this, but I'm definitely not that, right? But no, I'm not putting that all on midsize. Where I saw a lot of that damage was just people in smaller bodies in general, right? In straight size. And right now I am gonna lump midsize into straight size because they wear straight size. Midsize does fall into the straight size category, right? So I'm gonna lump straight size right now into where What
I just think you can't tell a difference because you're too far away from it, which is fine. But, I don't blame her for not knowing that if she hasn't been anywhere near that in a long time. But there is a delineation, even within being thin. So even not being mid-sized, there are delineations. You can be thin and not look good. You can be thin and be skinny fat. You can be thin and have like bad body comp or fat distribution. You know what I mean? Like there is a thin umbrella. And so people who have been thin most of their life, they are like, what the hell are these fat people talking about? Like, I still don't look good, or I still have this, or I still have that. So it's like, because you can also be too thin too. I mean, it's not like there's an umbrella, and she cannot see that at all. So I'm letting you guys know, if you guys don't understand, they don't see it. She doesn't even see a distinction between thin and mid-size, which I get. Mid-size is very subjective. It's very time and place dependent. But regardless, within the time and place that you exist, it's relevant. You do reach it and you're like, oh my God, what is this? And there is a difference. So I understand that it's kind of subjective and whatever. I understand not everybody's going to get it. If you've never been overweight before, you might be like, what do you mean? You're just fat. And it's like, well, no, because when you have actually been just fat, it's different. So, but regardless, I don't expect everybody to understand the minutia of everything. The only reason why I do and why I talk about it is because this is what my channel is about. And if I don't know, then who does? And same with them. Like, if this is their activistic space, they should know what they're talking about. If you don't know what you're talking about, then it's kind of like dumb. So if you can't see the difference between midsize and thin, as a fat activist or as an activist who specifically is obsessed with this area and somebody who is working within this area, how can you expect anybody else to understand or get where you're coming from? It's just wild to me, which again, that's kind of like an activistic fail. So it's a little bit different, but it just blows my mind sometimes how bad they are.
I really saw was during the pandemic was there were a lot of very small, or really kind of just a lot of straight size folks that were not accepting of all bodies, but because their daily lives changed, their daily routines changed, they saw their bodies changing, and therefore then were like, oh, I'm body positive. I'm body positive. Everybody is body positive. But it still didn't really, what I saw, it still wasn't applying to anything above a straight size.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. What did you see?
I saw a lot of...
I feel like she's seeing things that aren't necessarily there. Like, I just have a question for Ali. I'm like, were you like specifically following people throughout years of time before? I don't know. It's just hard to believe.
Fitness influencers. I saw a lot of
What
lifestyle.
I'm picturing is like the...
Were you comparing it to the past? Like, what are you talking about? And the thing too is it's not everybody. Not everybody's going to have the exact same takes, or not everybody's going to feel the exact same way about weight gain or about body positivity or about these things. So it's like, and I understand commenting on a trend. Like, I do that too sometimes, but it's like, it can't be so, like, we need a little bit more tangibility. Like, did you see somebody actually change their mind, where their message for years was, this is horrible, this is horrible, this is horrible. Then they gain some weight. Then they're like, okay, it's fine now because I've gained weight. You know what I'm saying? And to be honest, that is just really hard for me to believe, because I've known fitness people Like, I followed fitness people. I've known, like, you know, as you guys know, my best friend, Eric, he's super into fitness and stuff. They know, and they're not happy usually if they're on an upward swing. I've known other people, I've observed other people that have had fluctuations. They're aware, usually. And I don't usually see those types of people viewing it with body positivity. Like, if you were to imagine Jillian from The Biggest Loser, if she were to put on some weight, do you really think that she would be body positive about it? Like, I just don't see it. So I'm kind of questioning what she's even seeing, because I've never observed that in a fitness person, ever. I've never observed, like, average is okay type of mindset. So I'm just kind of blown away.
One person that bends over like, I have a single roll. Like, that's what I imagine.
And I'm body positive.
Which isn't a bad thing to post. It's just are you acknowledging that there's lots of other bodies out there? That's what I'm imagining when you're talking about this.
And that's exactly what I'm thinking of. Because they're not acknowledging. They're not acknowledging, and they're not holding space for the people that actually really need the positivity from the body positivity movement.
I feel like that's where, sorry, I will pass it to you right now.
It's giving entitlement to other people's activism, which I don't particularly love. I don't think that you have a right to demand a type of message or a message from another person. Like, you just have to be that voice. If it's important to you, you need to get up and speak out and do something, basically. And typically when I have commented on even like something like fitness influencers, I try to bring in specific examples, like I did in that video I did recently with Eric, where we talked about the wizard. It was a specific person that to me represents an overall trend within the fitness industry on Instagram in particular. Or it's like there's certain trends. And then when I just said I personally can't stand it, I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand a lot of the takes just because I felt like so many of them were unmotivating. And to me, it's like, if you're unmotivating when somebody's in a vanity weight era, like, you're dead weight, basically. It's like, fuck you. That's basically how I felt. And to me too, it's like, when you're in shape, I expect you to understand that motivation is important. I expect you to not gatekeep. I expect you to actually know what would help, not to say something stupid because it's trendy or whatever, or because it's emotional, or it's because it's what honestly fat people want to hear. That's the kind of shit that pissed me off, which it's not like that big of a deal, because again, like, vanity era stuff, it's kind of superficial in a sense. It's not 100% superficial, but it's just not as important as like health, I'll put it to you that way. So it doesn't totally bother me like as much as like a fat activist, where they're like actually pushing people towards death. But it does bother me just from like a procedural and like a process perspective, and from a fact of just being wrong. It irritates me. It's kind of like when people are obsessed with grammar. That's how it affected me. It pissed me off. It was like I was getting so irritated with bad takes or mid takes or shit tier takes about the process. It was making me so angry, because it's just irritating, and especially because I was like really focused, laser focused, like especially back in September and October, those 2 months in particular, it was really difficult, and I did not want to hear this shit from these people. So that was pissing me off so much. But that's why I did try to highlight some people who were motivating during the time, and some people who have good takes, who do know how to keep you going, that kind of thing. Because to me, it's like, I'm a kind of negative person in general. I can be kind of pessimistic at times, or just very emotional and, you know, that type of way. So I need somebody who's positive, personally. like a lot of people do when they're doing something like that. So I understand that, but it's like when you're fake positive or you have a smile on your face, but your message is shit, it actually pisses me the fuck off. So that was my issue. It's a very specific, and I will say it's a personal thing that I felt, and it irritated the hell out of me while I was in the process. But again, that's a specific complaint. It's not about the entire industry, all of it, etc. And it's not about me reading into people's emotions, because I think it's just, if it was anything, it's just they were saying what people want to hear. You know? Like when somebody's telling you, your body wants to regain. You don't want to hear that when you're in a vanity era. That's not helpful. And it's not even necessarily true, because you have to explain it with so many layers of nuance. You can't boil down the point of that in a minute. That takes probably like 30 minutes to actually talk about and actually describe what that is, which I will do something like that on this channel. And that's why a lot of it is long-winded, because this issue is complicated. You can't say it all in a minute. You just can't. It's too much. There's too many processes. There's too much stuff. But I have explained certain things, and I do have my maintenance activistic video coming where I'm going to lay it all out and describe why it happens, because people they can't explain to you why. They just say, it's just this. And it's like, no, there's reasons why. And that irritates me. And you can't sum it up in a minute.
But I do feel like that's where fat liberation came in. We were like, you can't take fat liberation from us because you're straight sized. Like you are not fat. That is factual. Right? Versus the body positivity, it was universal. I think that's where
well, it wasn't. Right? Body positivity was started by amazing fat black girls.
100%. That's what I was saying before. And then it became something it wasn't.
Everybody always says, can they name a name? And they never do.
Yeah. And that's where I think fat liberation then was born, because straight sized or smaller folks can't take that.
Yeah, to me, it's like the difference between I feel fat versus I am fat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, body image is everybody, but actual experience of fatness and how it affects your life is not everybody.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I will say, I think one thing important that I want to note for people listening, but also for both of you as you're thinking about these terms, is like, when we think about what people are doing with the term midsize, it's not the everyday Joe Schmo. No offense to any Joe Schmoes, y'all living your life, who are identifying as midsize and looking for content that talks about being midsize. It's the people who are publicly creating a discourse about midsize. That's influencers. Yes. That's people tagging it on Instagram. That's people making everything they put. I purposely went to YouTube this morning and typed in midsize. Now, I follow this girl named
hardly anything
who does fashion content, thrifting content. She identifies as midsize. I think it's important for her to identify as midsize. She's a size 14, 16. She shops at plenty of straight size places that do not fit her correctly.
There's almost no resources. Almost nobody talks about it. I was completely on my own as an activist. I had to start with basically nothing, and I had to create it because there's hardly any discourse, and so many people want to talk about it, and there was nothing to talk about. Like, there was nowhere to talk about it because it's just not, it's not toxic ritualistic friendly. Again, people hate that phase within it so much because it proves how mutable weight is, which is exactly what a toxic ritualistic person doesn't want to see. So they will never join those spaces. They'll never pump them up. There's never going to be any traction in it, even though midsize is probably the most plentiful category, especially within the United States. And so, of course, there's so many, especially women, who want to talk about their experiences of being midsize or want to talk about how they feel or whatever. And there really isn't anything. And it's very challenging. It was challenging from a downsizing perspective because it's like I'm having all these experiences, I'm having all these feelings, I'm having all this happen, and there's no one to turn to. There's nothing there. So I did my best with the era here. I really brought attention to it. I raised my voice. You know, I did what I could to talk about it, to make people both feel seen and also to help people understand that it is a thing. It is really weird. And although some people will do better with it, other people don't. And so I was like, it's important to talk about because it is weird. You know, it's a weird phase and it's been around forever. Like I was talking to my grandma about it when I was in it, and she remembered it from like when she was mid-sized years and years and years ago. You know, it is a phase that you have to deal with. You have to kind of make peace with it. That's my best advice, because it's kind of like what resists persists. Like it's almost like the more you hate being mid-sized, the more you'll stay there. Like it's weird. And I think it's just because it requires a lot of like, it's a little bit harder to get out of, in the sense that you really have to focus, and you usually have to go to the gym, which a lot of people don't want to do. Especially a lot of women, they don't want to go to the gym. They don't want to lift. They don't want to do things like that. And typically you kind of have to get out of mid-size. It's still easier than a vanity era, don't get me wrong, but it's harder than a small fat era. It's harder than being obese. It's when you're just overweight, or even just approaching that overweight category, it's kind of like you really have to start working out more, basically, and a lot of people don't want to. So it requires a little bit more. It's not that hard though. It really isn't. But you know, it's just not extremely easy. It's pretty easy though. From somebody who has been through the whole spectrum, it's pretty much the whole spectrum. It's probably the easiest just because you're healthier. Because all the other phases above that, you're unhealthy. So it's a little bit harder. And sometimes when you're in that mid phase, you take your health for granted, and you shouldn't. And you can even forget where you came from, and you shouldn't. And I tried to tell people that when I was there. Like, I really try to focus on where I've come from, because you just don't appreciate anything. It's weird. It's really weird. So you have to, I think gratitude exercises really help, especially within downsizing at that size, because you just you feel a little bit like, you can, at least some people feel emotionally off when they're downsizing, because it's like you're not overindulging, so you're not like numbing yourself at all, or you're not able to distract yourself at all, or it's like you feel a little bit of a sacrifice and you want it to go faster than it is, and it's not, and but it's kind of like, I tried to tell you guys, like, it's never going to be fast enough for you in that phase, and you can't go crazy over it, because it's the way your brain is within downsizing at that place. It's not real. It's just like your brain is getting a little bit low dough. You're having some low dopamine, and so you're impatient, and that's all it is. So you have to just let it go, basically, and just do the process and then get out. And a lot of people, they can't focus on it. They get irritated. They're like, this is not doing it. But it's like, if you were to just focus and do it, you'd be out in 5 months. It doesn't take that long. But it's just, it requires some thought, and then you make peace with it, and then you can just get through it. You make as much peace with it as you can, and then you just get out. And it does get worse. This is something I want to say too to all my mid-sized peeps. When you're downsizing, it gets worse right before it's about to end. So there is kind of a barrier to exit, because you feel worse as you're about to leave, and it kind of goes to an all-time high of mid-sized princess energy right at the end, and then it just goes away. then it's just gone. And so that can be hard too, because psychologically you're like, I feel worse. And it's like, yeah, because it's about to end, which one of you guys commented that, and I responded, and I was like, it's because it's about to end. It gets worse right when it's about to end. It's one of the only phases that's like that. Most of them, they get better as you go through it. That one, it didn't. It got worse. And I think it's just because you're approaching thin, and so it's like, it's a little bit psychological, it's a little bit hormonal, it's a little bit of everything. And then you're becoming healthier too. So there's just a lot to that. So it's like, you just gotta not fall for it, Don't fall for those feelings. They're not, like, it'll end. A lot of times in downsizing, people fear that these things never end. And it's why I have so much confidence within the maintenance phase that my current maintenance anhedonia will end, because every other issue has ended. But when you're in it or when you're approaching it, you feel like it will never end. And that's what makes people stop or give up. It's because you feel like it's not going to end.
She has shopped plus size, and then she'll show what's the difference between an XXL at Target and what's the difference between a 1X or 2X at Target. She shows that stuff. I love it. I think she's super educational. She is midsize. She is not plus size. She is midsize, and sometimes her access gets a little wobbly. And I think she does a beautiful job of sharing that.
Sure.
When I'm also going down it, one of the things is, do I look good or do I just look skinny? And I'm like, eek! And I think the proximity to thinness for mid-sized folks can still mean a lot of the influencers are utilizing their proximity to thinness to market themselves.
We're talking like influencers.
Yeah, and I do think when I think of the term mid-size, I'm not thinking about my cousin who would probably describe herself as mid-size. I'm not thinking about my friend who would describe themselves as mid-size, because they're just going about living their life and having some different experiences in stores. Okay?
100%.
I'm thinking of the people who are creating a public discourse around the idea of mid-size.
Interesting.
100%.
I have not viewed this conversation from that lens. I have viewed it from like a universal lens. So I do think that is
so
an interesting bit. I do think people who are actively in the fat community, regardless, you need to be an advocate for the fat community.
But the thing is like mid-sized folks don't see themselves in fat community. And I think that's where I struggle.
Yeah.
Carrie
It's also because a lot of fat people are very hostile to mid-sized people. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. Like, it doesn't take fortune telling to see this. How are you guys talking about it? It's in your emotions. It's how you look at somebody who's mid-size. That people feel that, and they're getting it all the time in that phase. And it's not fun. It just isn't. That's why I call mid-sized princess energy, that energy of like, everybody hates you and I was treated so horrible and da-da-da. Like, a lot of people, they're coming from a mid-sized perspective. And yeah, it fucking sucks. It sucks how people see you when you're mid-size. It really does. It's confusing. Like, at least when you're small fat, it's just always generally bad. Or generally, like, is static, I guess you could say. I wouldn't say generally bad. It's just generally static. So you can depend on how you're seen. You know how you're seen. When you're mid-sized, you don't have that. It depends on the person who's looking at you. And so social interactions become slightly unpredictable, or it's difficult to know where you stand with somebody. And people they take that for granted. It's like, if you've been thin forever, you take it for granted because you've never seen it change. If you've been fat for a really long time, and if you've especially been hugely fat for a very long time, you probably don't even really remember when the moment it shifted. But somebody who's mid-sized, it's constantly shifting depending on who they're talking to. And so they're very, very aware. And that's why mid-sized princess energy is so obsessed with how other people are treating them, because they don't have bigger health issues. And they care about fashion because clothes don't look that great, or it's really hard. Like I said, you can make it work stylistically, but you have to be talented. And most people are not that talented. I'm sorry. It's challenging. And again, I often do sing Angelica's praises, but she's kind of fashionista, you know, she can make it work. She's had some good outfits, but again, she's been doing style and stuff for years and years. So it's like, that's not going to be an average person. That's midsize. It's like, it's somebody who's just very creative in a fashion type of way, or someone who does thrifting and is able to manipulate clothes or whatever. That's the kind of person who's going to still look decent in a mid-size era, but most people know, you know, so it's distressing. And then they are obsessed with it too, because if you can dress better or worse on a given day, people will see you differently based on that day. So it's kind of higher stakes, which it's just, I know it sounds kind of stupid to somebody who's really big, who has all these health problems. I'm not saying it's worse than having health problems. It's not. But I am saying it is generally irritating. And fat people in general are not super great to mid-sized people in general. So they don't feel like they're a part of it. And they aren't. And I don't think you should be a part of the fat herd. And I don't think you should ever gain to become a part of it. I don't think it's good to become part of the fat herd. I think it's awful. And if anything, it creates a psychological drive to stay there. So you don't want that. So if you're mid-sized, do not gain. You know, don't. It's better to stay where you're at, even though it is annoying. It is an annoying phase. It's really irritating.
And again, if you want an example of someone who does it well, I think she's someone who does it well. Not someone that's never made a mishap. I think she's learned a lot about how to talk about being mid-size. She will often be like, oh, I got this thing from Target. It's available in plus size, da, 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 da. She gives information. She knows she's on the line of straight size to plus size. And she acknowledges how things fit. And she gives information to her viewers who may be plus size, who may be fitting into the straight size. What I struggle with is mid-size influencers who only see themselves and their contemporaries as people their size or smaller. But like you noted, which I think is important, is that recreates itself at every size.
Yeah.
That recreates itself at every size. There could be people who are size 22 who only see themselves as like the size 24 and lower plus, you know, that they don't want to think about the people above. So I agree with you. That idea, that way of doing things is at every size. There's people who...
I think that's why sorry, Rebecca. I think that's almost why people who are on the farthest end of the spectrum get so frustrated within our community, because look how many there are of us, and yet we still shop at stores that don't carry their sizes.
Yeah.
Well, it's because...
There's not that many, though. There's just not. Like, even thin people, they might not consider a mid-sized person mid-size. They might not use that term in their brain, but they have a perception of it because it's so plentiful. There's so many. So it has to do with the overall number. There isn't that many people who are a size 36. There's just not. So it's different. And they try to frame it as like, it's this horrible thing, da, da, da. No, thin people are also aware of fat people because there's plenty of them. Especially small fat. There's a lot. So but they can't think of anything from a thin person's perspective. Literally nothing. They cannot think of it whatsoever. So, and they're literally trying to say that thin people just don't think fat people exist, which is, it's ridiculous. It's laughably stupid.
What other options do we have?
What?
Now I'm second guessing myself.
No, I don't think I followed that.
No, so like even some plus size stores don't carry
above a size 24 or something.
Right.
Right.
Oh, 100%.
So we're still shopping at them
100%.
because what options do we have? But also we're still making it okay for them to not have more sizes for people above us.
Oh,
you know?
I totally agree. And that, like, that's something that that I, you know, like we were talking about earlier in the episode, that like I struggle with. I struggle with, you know, knowing that just
Switch to TurboTax and file your own tax.
2 years ago, I could not shop at some of the places that I shop at now, right? And where else am I supposed to shop? You know? So it's so hard. It's so hard. And I have been loving the discourse lately too of like, Alyssa and I were at the pool the other day and I saw a plus size girl and I loved her two-piece, but I knew exactly where it was from, right? And there's this discourse of like, yeah, we love each other's clothes, but I would love to look at you and say, hey, where did you get that badass outfit? And not, I know exactly where you got that outfit from.
Okay,
because
well, that's not give me liberty or give me death. This is not important. And again, they're sitting there complaining that a mid-sized person's concerns are unimportant when that is your problem, Ellie. Like, I can't think of a more pedestrian issue than I wish I could look at your clothes and not know where you bought it. Like, just shut up, please. I'm sorry. It is just, to me, it's the complete hypocrisy of it, which I'm okay with us all complaining about pedestrian issues if that's what we want. But you don't get to be upset that a mid-sized person has a pedestrian problem and then bring up your own. That's even less important. I can't think of something more stupid to even say.
we're seeing the same goddamn thing over and over and over because we all have like the same 20 stores to shop from, right? So
And it's so much better in America
20?
than other countries. Like, oh my
that
God.
20 stores is not enough. If you need to have unlimited stores, then just lose some weight. I mean, my gosh, that's pretty good. For being hugely fat, it's pretty good to have 20 stores. So what you've memorized were every single article of clothing in every single one of those 20 stores. So if you see somebody, you know exactly where they bought it from. It's like, honey, I'm not hating if you're like a huge shopping girly pop and you're like really good. But it's like if you want absolutely unlimited options, you're going to have to just lose weight. Maybe that's a motivation for you, which is fine. I'm not even judging that. I get it. I respect the shopping, you know, if it's done responsibly, you have enough money, etc. It's not wasteful, whatever. I respect it. And then if you not hoard, not me giving disclaimers, I don't think you should hoard. I think you should donate what you're not using anymore, stuff like that, or maybe sell it or whatever, repurpose. But other than that, it's go for it. Be a shopping girly pop. It's fun. Like, I love to thrift. I understand it to a certain extent. But to me, it's like, if you're just like, I want to be able to go to like 10,000 stores, then you need to just lose. Like, maybe that's a motivation for you.
I do know. But no, back to your point, I think it was so brilliant of you, Rebecca, to help us get to that moment of understanding. Yes, I am specifically talking about the online community.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about our best friends. I'm not talking about our cousins or whoever's, right?
Yeah.
I am talking about the people who are specifically.
No, I think they are talking about real life people too, because there's a resentment, there's a jealousy, there's all these things of a mid-sized person. Again, in general, I'm not saying every single fat person treats every single mid-sized person badly, but there is a general trend. And heaven forbid a mid-sized person were to say that, the whole fatosphere would blow up. You know, they would.
Marketing off the term.
Marketing it, you know, and
It's interesting. I don't feel like I follow a lot of those people. And good.
and
Well, I mean, yeah, especially they're doing Carrie Dayton. Check her out. She's awesome.
Oh, I'll
and
check her out.
The thing
But
is, like, but the thing is, I do follow people in all different kinds of bodies, right? And so I do see a lot of it. And I see it done well, and I see it done very badly.
Yeah, there's absolutely people who do it well.
Yeah, 100%. But there are people who do use it in a way to say, I'm not with them.
Yeah.
You know, I know, I realize they're saying it, they're almost using it in a way to say, hey, I realize I'm not a Victoria's Secret model, but I'm definitely not what they are.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of reasons for that. There could be personal resentment. There could be your own internal toxic ritualistic issues. There could be a fact you don't want to co-opt somebody else's struggle that you don't really have. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why, and you don't always know why. Maybe you can suss it out, but does it really even matter? That's my question. You know? It's their subjective feelings about their body. Like, how much can that matter to us as a separate person? Like, yes, maybe you can have a quick comment about it. Oh, I feel like this person might have a toxic ritualistic issue. I'm concerned for them. And then you move on with your day. Because what are you going to do about an online influencer that's like that? All you can do is be like, okay, I'm going to take some of what they say with some skepticism because I feel like they have an issue where they're really fearful of being fat. So maybe they're going to be kind of biased about certain things. Okay. That's pretty much it. It doesn't have to be that deep. Where you can be deeper is when people are giving advice or stuff like that. That's where you can critique more, and that's fine. Or you can be like, oh, I don't like what they're saying. Or when they're reinforcing toxic ritualistically, which is horrible. Or when they're, like this podcast is. Or when they're low-key advocating for you to gain or something, which can happen in a lot of different contexts. But that's where you could be more like hostile to a mid-sized creator if they're doing stuff like that. But it's typically just fashion advice because a lot of mid-sized people feel like, well, I should just shut up and I don't have it as bad as other people, so I guess I should just shut up. And I'll just deal with whatever I'm feeling and I won't make it anyone else's problem. And then you have the other mode, which is like, I'm just angry. So it's like, that's kind of the two main modes of the mid. It's just like, I'm not going to say anything or I'm pissed. And so that's really all you have. And again, sometimes there could be a mix. Sometimes maybe some of these influencers, they are a little salty because of how they're treated, or they don't like being called that they're fat when they're not. And so there's going to be a salt there, even if it's like very little and you're picking up on that. That might not even be a toxic ritualistic issue. It could be an issue of how other people are treating and seeing them, especially online, which again, it doesn't take 10,000 pounds of empathy to see, especially as the fab fatties are also online and they constantly complain about how they're treated. It's like, gosh, like you can't put yourself in another person's point of view, even for a second. It's mind-boggling. It really is.
Harmful.
Yeah.
But again, I am not talking
And it's
about.
just, it's irritating because they say they're so empathetic and it's like, you guys aren't. You're just about yourself.
Our best friends
Yeah.
walking down the street.
No, I'm with you.
I'm talking
Yeah.
about the girl who is literally like, you should shop where I shop and give me your money off of my, let me earn commissions off of you, because I do understand them having that platform allows our mid-sized friends and cousins, whoever, to find people who look like them to say, hey, that dress looks good on her body, so it might look good on my body. I 100% want that for them, because finding Rebecca on Instagram for me years and years and years ago started, finding people like Rebecca started that for me, started my journey, right? So I want that for everybody. Like, if you find people that it's helpful for you to see these pieces that you want to wear, but you're afraid or whatever, like you see it on a body that looks like yours, you're like, you know what, I'm going to do that. 100%. I want that for you. I want that for you. It's the online community that I want to do better.
Yeah, and listen, like again,
You didn't say any
this happens
specific
at larger
things.
sizes too. Again, like whenever I was
There's no specific statement you made, though. There's no specific criticism or anything. And if you want to just say your own personal feelings, that's fine, but at least say something specific that you're talking about, which she kind of tried to, but it was so nebulous that I don't even really know what she was saying there.
a size 28, 30, did I feel absolutely excluded from people who are size 22, 24? Yes. Yeah. I felt like they did not want to be associated with me due to sizeism. Like, I think it happens on every scale. I will say, if you're listening and you're curious about some things, like, There are brands that go up to higher sizes. I will say what's not accessible is the price point of those brands. A lot of them are doing their own manufacturing or having to do special manufacturing because it's not an industry standard, and that's frustrating. I mean, listen, larger folks are going to find discrimination at work. Like, they're probably not making the best money. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, they're already facing that.
Oh,
barrier.
they're making some money because in order to afford that food, they're making some money. And again, I don't feel bad for the financial impact of this. You're choosing to be that big. It's expensive. Period. There, make no bones about it. If you can't afford to be that big, then maybe you should consider why you are. Because you're probably wasting your money every single day on way too much food.
You're most likely. And then this. The other thing I would say is if you are online and you follow people, like, I think you mentioned following me and seeing that. When I first got onto blogs, I was like fascinated finding people that looked like me. Okay. Don't stop there.
Yeah.
Don't stop there.
Yeah.
Follow people, different ages, genders, races, different bodies that fit your message. Like, that you don't go follow them just because they're diverse.
Yeah.
Like, that actually add value to your feed, and follow people that are bigger than you. And I will say, most likely they're getting.
Okay, I don't even know what she's saying there. So what? It's just about visually seeing somebody. You can't see somebody that thinks of things differently. It's just about them looking a certain way. Like, I don't get it. Whatever. Okay.
Less support.
Because the way that I read that is, as long as they're toxic ritualistic like you, in the way that you are, then follow them. That's how I hear that.
Consider supporting them. Consider showing them support in some kind of way. I will just say, like, these terms are helpful because they do have a way of people talking to each other and talking about their experiences. And then we have a term we can say, like, hey, I get you're fat, but, like, I'm a super fat and I have a very different experience. And I love that people can say those things.
Yeah.
And people can use them to find each other and all of that stuff, right? But what I think the most essential part of that terminology for me and understanding the spectrum is understanding the different barriers that people face in social and material ways.
But not health.
That it's not about how we feel about our bodies. Because, again, none of us get free from that thing. But, like, actually how we get to go about this world. Because if you're struggling to feel good about your body and you can't even go to the mall and go to the food court and sit in a seat, that is going to be a different thing to struggle with than feeling bad about your body and slipping into that damn booth.
Yeah.
Okay? It's just a different thing that's going to be out in the world.
Well, it's because you're getting a reality check, whether anybody says anything or not, which reality checks are distressing to the TR. It's very distressing because it creates cognitive dissonance. You have to find ways to quickly reinforce the issue in yourself in that moment in a way that you can't plan, which, again, all of these TR issues, they have to do with control. So if you can't control the size of a booth and you sit in it and you feel that physical stimulation, which you're doing your best to never feel, then you have to deal with the cognitive dissonance of what you're doing and, like, really work at it. And it creates a massive anxiety attack. And people that are hugely fat in the TR, they cannot handle any spontaneity at all. Even if you're just very big in general, I feel that the brain, you can get into that hypohaze just from being so hypothyroid, from being so big, that it's difficult to deal with gray areas. It's difficult to handle spontaneity in general because your brain becomes so rigid in that stage or in that physical condition. So when you combine the TR on top of it, it's, like, really, really difficult. It's a lot of mental gymnastics, a lot of work. And they're basically saying, we don't want to have to do that work to continue the problem. So it's so much worse for us when we don't fit into a chair. That's basically what she's saying.
Your feelings, right? And I just think that this language asks us to recognize that.
Yeah.
And I think it's important when we do look into this or talk about it, or anyone gets on the mid-size or not debate, because there is a debate about it, that they remember it's not just about how people feel, but how they actually experience the world.
Yeah. 100%.
I think you did a really beautiful job there, wrapping up like all of our thoughts and feelings. And I also want to say that, like, I know I'm still learning, you know?
Yeah.
And I hope when people listen, they don't feel, I'm worried that people are going to feel not represented by the terms and how we view them. So I feel like I want to also open up the conversation for people to come and join us and
Yeah.
share
I wonder
maybe
if
what
she's
they
as bored as I am right now. She's talking really slow. I wonder if she's bored. Oops.
seen online or who they're following.
Yeah, I'd love that. I'd love for
Yeah.
people to join us down in the comments, because like mid fat, I'm fat, and I did identify as super fat, but like
I just am fat.
Yeah, same. I don't
Listen, I can't make it more complicated right now because those levels really did start to give me a little like
Yeah.
anxiety. I'm fat and I'm gonna work on being good with that and not shrinking myself
Okay,
intentionally.
so
And I'm just
you're
gonna
literally
live.
talking about this, and then you're saying, but we can't do it. But you have to. You have to learn it. You have to deal with it, but we can't. So dumb. This is just horrible activism. Like, that just got a thumbs down. Just for the activistic level. That was awful.
Yep.
Period.
Well, and I think it is important to recognize again that
Gosh, they're just horrible. Sorry, that just really, again, it's like when people have a grammar moment, I get that way about activism sometimes, when that is such a failure. It's like, I'm going to hold you as a non-activist to a higher standard than I hold myself. That is just such a spit in the face of the profession, of the job. It is disgusting to me. That just really, oh my God. Oh. And I'm glad that they're ineffective. Don't get me wrong. I really am. But for my Enneagram people, my Enneagram 5 is extremely triggered by complete incompetence. And that is just such trash levels of competency. And it's basically, in my opinion, it is shitting on my profession in a way that is, it's like actually insulting to see that. It is awful. They are horrible activists.
this is a way, this is a tool, right? It's a tool. It's a tool that people can use to communicate with each other, to identify, and all of these things. But at the end of the day, it doesn't change who you are.
Way to go, Allie.
It doesn't change how we feel about you, how we feel about you, our viewers and our listeners. It doesn't change who you are because somebody has slapped a label on you or because you've slapped a label on yourself, right? I
What are
have
they even saying?
since I started openly calling myself fat, and I love that for me, you know, but it's just a word.
Yeah.
It is just a word, and these are just words. And
Okay, I can't handle it anymore. We're basically done. I don't care what else they say. That was just horrible. Anyways, you guys, thank you so much for watching. We will continue. I'm probably going to do more Fab Fatties. If there's anything I haven't reacted to by them that you want to see, please comment down below because I do have Daily January going. Thank you guys so much. I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.